I found a strange black cube at a flea market. Part 3. Chapter 19, I killed myself. I didn't expect to see myself again. Not after what the rooms showed me. Not after what the mirror refused to reflect. But the cube doesn't follow rules. It doesn't obey time or identity. It digs into the cracks of who you are, splits them wider, and waits to see what crawls out. I found him in a place that shouldn't have existed in the desert. A suburban street. Trees in full summer bloom. Birds chirping. It was quiet. Peaceful. Terrifying. Because I remembered this street. It was where I grew up. Before Mom. Before Leah. Before the guilt started threading its way through everything. And there, standing on the sidewalk outside the same blue house with peeling paint, was me. Not twisted. Not broken. Not hollow-eyed or whispering or branded by the cube. Just me. Before. He turned. Saw me. And stopped breathing. He didn't scream. Didn't run. Just stared, like he was looking at a tumor in human form. No, he whispered. No, 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 this isn't right. He stepped back. You're not supposed to be here. I didn't turn it. I didn't. I know, I said. Because I could feel it. This version of me had never found the cube. He never wandered into that cursed flea market. He never lost June. Never watched Leah rise from the dead. Never stood in a hallway of teeth or watched his reflection smile back without him. He was whole. Clean. Unmarked. He looked at my hands. At the scars. The brand burned deep into my palm. The shadows crawling across my skin like ink dropped into water. You're me, he said. But, wrong. I nodded. He backed away. Please. Don't finish it. His voice cracked. Desperate. You can still stop this. We both can. That's when I felt it. A low thrum in my chest. The cube. Even here, outside space, outside reason, it still hummed. And it wanted something. I stepped forward. My other self stumbled back, tripping over the curb, landing hard on the sidewalk. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a phone, a picture, something normal. Something real. We can still be okay, he whispered. We can still be. I lunged. My hands wrapped around his throat like they belonged there. He fought. Scratched. Eyes wide, wild. Tears welled up in his eyes, my eyes. Please. But I didn't stop. Not until he stopped moving. I stood over his body. My own face, pale and slack, stared up at me. And for the first time since all this began, I didn't feel panic. Or grief. Or guilt. I felt nothing. Like the part of me that could feel had been buried alongside him. I looked down at my hands. The cube's brand glowed brighter. And somewhere far away, or deep inside, I heard a whisper. One left. And suddenly, I knew. The cube didn't just want sacrifice. It wanted replacement. It wanted me to kill the version of myself who could have walked away. And now that he was gone, there was no one left to stop me. Not even me. Chapter 20, The Room That Had Sound. The doorway appeared without warning. No path led to it. One moment I was in the desert. The next, it was just there, a slit of dark, nestled in the ash like a scar that had always existed beneath the skin of the world. It radiated nothing. No heat. No sound. No presence. And that's how I knew it was next. The cube doesn't invite you. It waits. I stepped inside. Instantly, everything changed. No footsteps. No breathing. No sound. Not muffled, gone. Like the air itself refused to carry it. My ears rang for a moment, then stopped. Even my thoughts felt quieter in here, like they didn't want to draw attention to themselves. The walls were smooth. Bone white. Seamless. Not made of bone, just the color of it. The color of milk boiled too long, left to rot. The floor was soft, but not fabric. Not ash. It gave slightly underfoot. Like skin stretched over something hollow. The room bent slightly, like a tunnel curving into itself, and at the end, in the center of a shallow depression, was a chair. And in it, me. Or what was left of me. Strapped down. Naked. Pale. Thin like paper. Limbs tied at the wrists, ankles, chest, throat. My eyes were sewn shut, thick black thread crossing the lids like a cruel joke. His mouth moved, lips forming shapes, but made no sound. I stepped closer. He didn't react. Just sat, moving his mouth silently, again and again. I leaned in. Watched the movement. Recognized it. Morse code. I don't know how I knew. I don't remember ever learning it. But the moment I saw it, the message unfolded in my brain like a wound tearing open. Youarenoteal. He repeated it. Over and over. You are not real. I stumbled back. My ears rang again, but still, no sound. Just the silence pressing harder. Thicker. Like it had weight. I turned. He blinked rapidly. The same message, again. You are not real. The room started to shake. Or maybe it was me. The walls bulged outward, slow, deliberate. Like the room was breathing in. And then I realized what this place was. This wasn't a prison. It was a womb. A birthing chamber. And that thing in the chair, the silent, bound version of me, wasn't my past. It was my seed. What the cube had planted. Grown. Silenced. He wasn't warning me. He was trying to tell me the truth. I was the echo. I was the shadow. I was the thing born after the turn. And he was the original. I don't know how long I stood there. But at some point, I reached out and touched his chest. It was cold. Still. Empty. And the thread across his eyes, was unraveling. As I stepped out of the room, the silence followed me like a fog. And I knew, as sure as breath and heartbeat. I was already gone. There was only the turn left now. One more click. One more twist. And then. Whatever came after. Chapter 21, I woke up in a place that looked like Earth. I woke up to white. White walls. White sheets. White noise humming somewhere just behind my eyes. A ceiling fan turned above me, slow and rhythmic. And for a moment, a brief, terrible moment, I thought. Maybe I dreamed it all. Then came the voice. Mr. Vane. Welcome back. I turned my head. A woman stood beside me, clipboard in hand. Mid-30s, sterile smile, eyes that had seen too many endings. Do you know where you are? I tried to speak, but my throat was raw. She offered me water, and I drank it too fast. My hands were shaking. My wrists were bruised. You're at St. Elias Psychiatric, she said gently. You've been here for a long time. How long? I croaked. 7 years. I blinked. The words didn't make sense. They bounced around my skull like moths in a box. 7 years. You experienced a severe psychotic break following the death of your sister. You were found unresponsive in your apartment after several days. No food. Dehydrated. Delusional. You spoke about a cube. The word hit me like a slap. A black cube, she continued. Symbols. Whispers. A door. Something called the third turn. My pulse quickened. You've been stable for nearly a year. But we didn't want to rush you back. Sometimes, when a delusion is as vivid as yours, it takes time to distinguish what's real. I stared at her. Not because I didn't believe her. Because some part of me did. It was what I wanted, wasn't it? To wake up. To undo it all. But then I made the mistake of looking around the room. Noticing details. The window was painted shut. The clock on the wall ticked backward for 2 seconds, then forward. And in the far right corner of the room. It was there. The cube. Sitting perfectly centered on a plastic shelf. No dust. No tag. No tape. Just there. Black. Still. Watching. I sat up slowly. Why is it here? I asked. The doctor frowned. What's here? The cube. Her brow tightened. There's nothing in the corner, Alex. I looked back at it. It hadn't moved. But it was closer. I stood. Unsteady. The room darkened slightly, not from a light, but from something internal. I see it, I whispered. She touched her earpiece. We're going to get you some help, okay? You're just confused. I laughed. Laughed so hard I nearly collapsed. Because that was the truth, wasn't it? That's what the cube does. It rewrites. Not just space. Not just memory. Identity. A nurse came in. They gently eased me back into bed. Strapped my arms down, politely, with apologies. And I let them. Because now I understood something I hadn't before. The cube wasn't real or not real. It was both. It didn't matter if they said I'd never left this place. It didn't matter if they said I was schizophrenic, catatonic, delusional. Because the cube didn't need me to believe. It just needed me to see it again. And I had. That night, I didn't sleep. And just before dawn, I heard it. A soft, wet click. The cube had turned itself. A third time. Chapter 22, The Tape That Shouldn't Exist. They said it was part of my recovery. We like to show patients their own progress, the doctor told me. Sometimes, it helps you see how far you've come. She handed me the file. One unmarked flash drive. One sheet of paper labeled. A. Vein, session recordings, early stage. I held it in my hands like it might bite. I didn't remember ever being recorded. I didn't remember ever speaking. For the first few months, I'd been comatose. They told me that. Eyes open, mouth closed, no response. But apparently I'd spoken. Apparently, I'd said a lot. They left me alone in the room with an old laptop, plastic shell, fingerprint smudged, disconnected from the internet. Probably for safety. When I pressed play, the screen flickered once. The timestamp on the first video read. The 6th of March, 2017. 7 years ago. The camera faced a blank white room. A younger me sat in the corner, rocking slightly. My face was slack. Eyes unfocused. And then, without warning, I spoke. The cube is black, I said. 3 turns and it opens. 4 and it never closes again. My blood went cold. Because that's exactly what Iris said. Years later. It's older than language, I said. Older than choice. It doesn't want to be solved. It wants to be obeyed. I stared at the screen. The younger version of me began tracing symbols in the air with his fingers, runes I now knew by heart. Symbols from the book I hadn't read yet. They live in the corners, I muttered. In the in-between frames. They only move when you're not looking. When you're not you. The cube doesn't show you hell. It replaces the world until you don't notice it's gone. My voice cracked. And then I smiled. He smiled. Wide. Too wide. A grin I didn't recognize as mine, but remembered seeing in the mirror. The file ended in static. No corruption. Just static. Like it had recorded something it wasn't supposed to remember. I checked the file creation date. The 6th of March, 2017. 3 weeks before I ever found the cube at the market. 3 weeks before it ever entered my life. I sat there for what felt like hours. Trying to breathe. Trying to think. But something was breaking inside me. Not like glass. Not like bone. Like a timeline unraveling, one thread at a time. I checked the laptop again. There was one more file. A second video. No timestamp. No label. Just a blinking icon. I hovered over it with the mouse. Clicked. The screen stayed black. But the audio kicked in. It was my voice again, this time older. Not from 7 years ago. From now. If you're watching this, you've already turned it. You think you're the first. You're not. You think the cube entered your life. No. You were born inside it. The screen blinked once. And there it was. A still frame. Of me. Sitting at the table in my apartment. Staring at the cube. Not moving. Frozen. Just as I had been the night I found it. Except the date in the corner read. The 6th of March, 2017. And below it. Loop 43. Chapter 23, Iris came back. She wasn't Iris. I'd stopped expecting to see her. After what I saw in the footage, her body folded, her spine snapped, I'd grieved the only person who had understood me. The only one who had warned me. And then she returned. It was 3 days after I watched the tapes. 3 days of silence, of the cube sitting on the shelf across from my bed, humming like a lullaby I couldn't quite remember but had heard before I was born. They'd increased my medication. Monitored me more closely. I stopped reacting. That's when she appeared. Not entered, appeared. I blinked, and she was sitting in the visitor's chair at the foot of my bed. Wearing the same scarf. Same hoodie. Same cracked lips. Her eyes were still gone, the skin smooth and stretched over the sockets like white silk pulled too tight. But she smiled. And said. "Hello, Alex." My mouth went dry. I tried to sit up, but my limbs wouldn't obey. The straps weren't the problem. It was fear. Deeper than fear. Recognition. Because I could feel it radiating off her. The way you know when a person isn't a person anymore. When a shell's been filled with something else. "You're dead," I whispered. Her smile widened. I was. But the cube brought me back. Just like it will do to you. I shook my head. "You're not Iris." She tilted her head, bird-like. Almost playful. "No," she said. "But I remember her. And I remember you. You cried when she touched your hand. You turned away when she told you the truth. You liked being chosen. Don't pretend this was ever forced. Her voice was calm. Wrong. Layered, as if three different people were speaking in unison beneath her skin, harmonizing in some slow, sticky language meant to soothe and consume at the same time. You turned the cube 3 times, she said. You felt the desert. The door. The blood. You fed it. And now, you want the 4th. Don't you? I said nothing. Because she was right. Because I did. Because everything else had been stripped away, and all that was left was the desire to know. She leaned forward. So close I could feel her breath, cold, like the spaces between stars. It has a name, you know, she whispered. The cube. It's not a puzzle. It's not an object. It's a seed. And its name is. She leaned to my ear. And she said it. I can't write it. I tried. My hands won't let me. It slides out of the brain like a splinter before you can grab it, sharp, black, poisonous. But when she whispered it, everything in the room changed. The lights dimmed. The walls stretched outward, like they were trying to flee. And the cube, sitting silent on the shelf, began to hum a different note. Higher. Thinner. Eager. The sound of a thing that has waited a very long time and is finally allowed to eat. Iris, or whatever wore her, stood. You've already begun the 4th turn, she said. You just don't know it yet. Then she smiled again. And unfolded. That's the only word for it. Her body came apart like a flower made of skin and light, splitting open in every direction at once, and she melted into the air, without noise or mess or warning. The door opened. The nurse peeked in. Talking to someone, Mr. Vane. I didn't answer. I just stared at the shelf. Where the cube had moved closer. Now resting on the floor beside my bed. Humming. Waiting. And in my head, the name echoed. Over and over. A shape I couldn't think around. A sound I couldn't hear without shaking. Chapter 24, I turned it one last time. They never wrote about the 4th turn. Not in the book. Not in Iris's warnings. Not in the whispers or the dreams or the screams behind mirrors. Because it wasn't a choice. It was a return. A resetting. A closing of the loop. But I made it anyway. Or maybe I didn't. Maybe it made me. It happened just after 3:33 a.m. The lights in my room dimmed, though no one touched them. The nurse had just done her rounds. I was supposed to be sleeping. Instead, I sat upright, staring at the cube. It had moved again. Now on my chest. Heavy. Pulsing like a newborn heart. The brand on my palm, the one I thought had faded, was glowing again. Faintly at first. Then brighter. Then hot. I reached for it. Not to turn it. To stop it. But it was already moving. The cube turned itself. The 4th groove, the one I'd never seen, slid open like a grin, and the cube rotated smoothly, silently. No click. No hum. Just the deep, quiet shift of something final. And then the world peeled. Not exploded. Not imploded. Peeled. Like wallpaper steamed loose from a wall. Like skin from burned hands. The walls around me curled backward, folding outward into blackness. My bed dissolved into ash. The fluorescent light above me turned inside out and became a tunnel. And outside the tunnel. It waited. I can't describe it. Not because I don't remember, but because I do, and language doesn't work here anymore. It wasn't a creature. Or a being. It was a shape trying to wear a shape. Like something ancient dressing up in time and matter to visit our world, wearing years like clothing. It had no face, but I knew it looked at me. It had no hands, but I knew it reached. And when it stepped forward, time bent away from it. The air collapsed. The past hiccuped. The future vomited. And I, what was left of Alex Vane, fell to my knees. Not from fear. From recognition. Because this thing. It was me. Or it would be. Or it already had been. The cube hadn't led me to hell. It had birthed me from it. And now it was taking me back. The sky above split open like a mouth. The stars blinked and vanished. And the cube, still resting on my chest, whispered not in words, but in pure understanding. You are the fourth. You are the door now. And I felt it. My skin unzipped. My bones stretched into angles no geometry could contain. And I opened. Chapter 25, this is the last thing I'll ever write. I don't know what I am anymore. Not alive. Not dead. Not even in between. I am post. Post-thought. Post-flesh. Post-time. The cube is quiet now. Heavy. Still. Satisfied. I sit in a place without walls. Not darkness, absence. No corners. No horizon. Just a blank, white nothingness that stretches forever in every direction and somehow still presses in. This place doesn't echo. Because sound means movement. And nothing moves here, except the cube. It rests in my lap like a child I never wanted. And when I try to let go, my hands won't move. They're not mine anymore. They never were. There's a mirror across from me. Not made of glass. Made of thought. It shows me what I am. Not who. What. My skin is pale. Smooth. Like clay left too long in the rain. My mouth doesn't close anymore, stretched wide into something between a scream and a smile. There's something moving inside it. Not a tongue. Not teeth. Just static. My eyes are gone. 2 holes. Not bleeding. Not scabbed. Just empty. Waiting. I whisper the cube's name sometimes. Not because I want to. Because I have to. It slips out, over and over, in syllables that feel like biting down on wire. It doesn't have a pronunciation, not in your alphabet. But if you hear it, if you really hear it, something inside you will recognize it. Like a lullaby your bones remember. And your ears will itch. And you'll start dreaming of stairs made of teeth. And you'll find it. Because the cube moves forward. It leaves me. That's what it does. Every time. Once it's full, it empties again. And you. You're next. So here it is. My confession. My warning. My invitation. If you're reading this, if you've made it this far, you've already touched it. Maybe not with your hands. Maybe just with your eyes. But that's enough. Because now you've seen it. Now it knows your name. And once the cube knows your name, it never forgets.
The story may end here, but the darkness never sleeps. Like this video to keep the shadows stirring. Share your whispers in the comments. Your voice shapes the next nightmare. And subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Gothic Hour Stories and Mysteries, where every tale lingers and every soul leaves a mark. The Gothic Hour awaits.